Hi, you guys. Hope you're doing okay. Good to see you. Wondering where everybody's coming from. So I'm so glad you're joining me today. I'm pretty excited. I see people are starting to pop in, so thank you so much. You could tell me where you're from. I'd love to know that. This is definitely a first for me, and I'll tell you all about that in a minute. But hello from North Carolina. It's good to see you. We've got Kentucky and Minnesota and New Jersey. So many great people. You guys, thank you for being part of my quilting family. I'm pretty excited about sharing this with you today. Hello, Miss Ellen from there on Silver Mountain. Joanne's great to see you, Sharon. So many of you coming in today. Some of you are there over on YouTube. That's great. Thank you so much. And many of you are coming in from Facebook as well. It's great to have you here. I decided to just start a little bit early to make sure everything was working great. And in the next couple of minutes, I'll roll over to what I want to say, but don't really have a lot to tell you right now other than I'm grateful that you popped in for this today. And got Colorado and Tennessee and Florida, more Montana, Kansas City, British Columbia, Mandela. Big kiss to you. See, I know some of you people. Kay, it's great to see you. And Donna and Allison. Allison, oh my gosh, from Montreal. I've got friends in Montreal visiting right now. I should tell them to go see you. Hugo is joining us from the TV room just right over there, just literally 20 feet away. Hey, Carol, how are you today? Rosemarie, Cindy, oh my God, all you guys. And oh, Mary Lynn, it's good to see you too. Are you going to Houston this year? Wonder how many of you are going to Houston. As a matter of fact, that's probably something I should say. I am teaching in Houston this year, and if you are going, please sign up for my class. I would love that. Helene, it's great to see you. Absolutely, so many of you guys. Betty Ann, it's great to see you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I am pushing up onto the top of the hour where I promised Debbie to give you a little bit of unveiling. And so let me explain to you why. Okay. I have not made a major quilt in a while. I've made quilts, lots of quilts, and some fun quilts, but a pretty significant quilt for me. And so here's the thing. When a person like me is making a quilt, you only get one time to put it in a show where you're kind of anonymous, right? Because when quilts get out there at shows, people know the quilt. So I just wanted for this quilt to be anonymous the first time it's judged. And so this quilt got accepted into Houston for the show that's coming up in October. The awards have not been revealed, but the judging is over. So now that it's all judged, I can reveal this to you guys without compromising my anonymity, so to speak. And I do feel that this quilt is a little bit outside of what people know me for. So I just wanted to have that opportunity. So I've hinted way back like a year ago or even more. I hinted at what I was doing. So some of you may have seen a hint of this quilt. If you were in my classes, you might have actually got a sneak peek and promised to keep it quiet. But nonetheless, what I've done is it was almost a year and a half in the making. And what I did was I kept photographs and videos all along the way. And so for the first time, and for me, I've put together a documentary. I wrote the music for it, I edited it, putting it together so that you can see this quilt from kind of start to finish and know all the background about it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to show you the documentary. It's 19 minutes long. I don't think you'll be bored at all. And then pop your questions in, and I will do my very best to answer questions at the end of this. So without any big further ado and any other introduction, other than just letting you know, here we go. I'm going to play the little video. The name of the quilt is called The Visitation, and that will be explained in the video. So here we go, and I will be back after the documentary. Ravens have been a part of my sort of spiritual esoteric life for at least maybe the last 15 to 20 years, and they've become really prominent, and I've done a lot of research on them, and as a result of that, it's brought this quilt into being. In Native American lore, raven is often associated with impending doom. I could even say death. But raven is also tricky, clever, extremely intelligent, and in many cultures associated with the creation story. Raven is the one that flung the sun into the sky, and that's a story for another time. But Raven is very creative and very intelligent. So while the raven is very much associated with this, this urgency, I also wanted this to be a scene with nighttime. So I've got this sort of wintry scene, a barren tree. It could look old, it could look dead, it could look craggy. But the thing about the tree is that the tree is stationary. When that seed is planted and it sprouts and the tree begins to grow, it stays in one place. It doesn't move, it stays there. It watches the hands of time pass on and on and on, year after year after year. I think of the tree as being wisdom, as absorbing and certain and sure. I also think that in this particular situation, because the hands of time are saying, hey, time is running out, I always think of endings as being beginnings. Because when one thing ends, a new thing begins. And even though this tree looks craggy and old and barren in the full moonlight, the chill and the cold of winter will end, and spring will come again, and new life emerges. And that's why I quilted a hint of ghostly leaves into the quilt as a foreshadowing of what is to come that is positive and hopeful. Fabrics for the quilt are all hand dyed, and one of the things I love about using hand dyed fabric is for the piece of art itself. I know it's like an artist with a canvas, it's a blank canvas, it's white, they add all the colors, and in this case, yes, I started with white fabric, all of the fabrics were then dyed, and then the dyed fabrics become what I use to make the quilt. For the design of this quilt, I had a vision, and I may not be the world's best artist for drawing, but I had a vision, and AI is a really great tool. This quilt was not created or designed with AI, but I did use AI to give me some elements. I, for example, said, I'd like to see a raven in a moonlit sky with a craggy old tree. Well, AI gave me all of those things, but not in a way that I liked. It gave me a craggy old tree that was filled with snakes, believe it or not. But I liked the shape of that tree. So I used the shape of that tree, took out all of the snakes that were crawling all over it. It was actually very eerie. I ended up using a photograph of one of the moons that I had taken, a full moon shot. And then I wanted this energy as if the raven is coming. He's coming now, he's lighting, he's bringing his message to us right now. So in Photoshop, I took all of those different elements and then I put them together. Then I had to go in and do a vector drawing to create the pattern that I would use. I printed that out 80 inches square. So it was all printed. I have a large format printer, so I was able to print it in 2 sections. So 80 by, is probably 50 inches, and I overlapped those to create my full pattern. And then even as I was working on the quilt, I would make adjustments to that pattern by scratching out these lines and adding new lines and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about the moon. The moon in this quilt is an actual photograph that I took of a full moon. I also knew, because I put this into Adobe Illustrator for the entire pattern, that ended up, I knew exactly how big the moon was. And because of that, I could then create my moon. I could give it the right color, change it from its bright light to a more purpley cast, because that was the colors I was using. And then I sent that file to have Spoonflower digitally print that moon. So I created that moon with a digital print, and really so it looks like the real moon. It's not just regular fabric. And surprisingly, I used that same moon on the face of the watch. So I just shrunk it down to the 3.5 inches that pocket watch is, and I used that to do hand embroidery. All of that, most of that is done with one strand, because it had to be so finely detailed to do that pocket watch, and try to get the effect of metal with shining and shadows. Doing hand embroidery is certainly not something that's in my wheelhouse, so I hope it turned out good, but it's one of those things that I was kind of like intimidated by when I was working on the pocket watch. This quilt is all pieced except for the raven, which is applique. I use a method that I call locomotion, which is a no pins precision curved piecing. A lot of people look at this quilt and they think instantly it's paper pieced. It is not a paper piece or a foundation pieced quilt. Paper piecing, or what we know as foundation piecing, always has straight lines, and you can create the illusion of curves by the way you piece it, but this is truly all pieced using my method with no pins and curves. And it also has embroidery on it, which is a machine style embroidery, and then the hand embroidery is the pocket watch. I knew that this raven needed to be dramatic, and so I wanted, instead of doing fused edge with some sort of a stitch on the edge, which I've done a lot on my quilts, that just did not seem right for this quilt. I ended up taking each feather, and the big feathers are 3 parts. They're the spine of the feather and the 2 sides of the feather. That was then stitched onto my Ricky Tim Staple Stuff Poly. That's just a piece of fabric on the stabilizer. And then from the spine, I then went and I did embroidered stitches with generally variegated thread, and I did all of those little top stitches that are on each of the feathers to give it more of a detailed look, knowing that I would eventually then turn all these edges, and when the feathers were finally on the quilt, I would quilt the quilt with black thread on those feathers, and all of the black stitching between those embroidered lines would become the quilting. All of the lighter thread is an embroidered on top, and the black that is between each of those is the actual quilting. So that decorative stitch is kind of like an embossed. It's not all the way through. It only is on the top layer, but the black stitching between the feathers goes all the way through to the back side. Once I had each feather done with its embroidery, then I used the applique tools and glue stick, and I turned the edges of every single feather, no matter how big or how small it was, and then I basically glued it in place. So I'm using fabric glue to glue all of these elements together. Most people would be expecting me to be appliquing these to each other by some machine device or some hand device, but I didn't. I literally glued all of this together using fabric glue to get the raven all in place. Why did I do this? Why did I not take the extra step to do an actual stitch on the edge of every single feather? I felt through my experiments from my exploring that it was adding too much and I didn't need it because I knew that the quilting on the raven would go off of every feather and back on and off of every feather and back on, and that the quilting would actually in the end applique this raven to the quilt. All of the smaller feathers, all of the details in those, it's being appliqued on while it's being quilted. The crazy thing about this, because it is so heavily quilted, that quilted applique, there's not one single feather that's going to come off. There's no visible attachment for any of that applique because it's just kind of a magical thing. I've never done that on a quilt before, but in this particular case, because I'm not top stitching around the edges of the feather, I'm literally going in and out to create the design of the feather. It ended up looking magical and beautiful. I was really happy with the results of what happened on that, but it was an experiment and the first time I ever tried that. The quilting on the quilt is done in a variety of ways. Most of it was free motion on a domestic sewing machine, but I did do a little bit on the long arm. The quilt was basted on the long arm using water-soluble thread so that it would dissolve, because eventually I'm going to block my quilt, which means immersing it in water, and that dissolves that. But I basted it on the long arm. The other long arm elements on this quilt are, I did free motion long arm leaves. So there are leaves quilted into the quilt, and there are then Roman numerals. I needed the Roman numerals to be extremely accurate, so I digitized all 12 of the Roman numerals. I did them at different sizes, turned them at different angles, and I let the long arm digitizing do those numbers. For that digitizing, I used the Q-matic on the Bernina and using a Bernina Q24 to do the long arm quilting. When it came to the rest of the quilt, all of the free motion that is done for the landscape, any of the stippling that's throughout the entire quilt, that was all done on the domestic. So if I was looking at percentage, I would probably say that maybe something in the realm of 85% of this was quilted on the domestic sit-down sewing machine doing free motion quilting. One of the things on this quilt are the leaves and the Roman numerals that are stitched into the quilting. And I liked that, but I wanted them to have a little more presence because they matter to the theme and the subject of this quilt. The leaves are actually a foretelling that this barren looking dead tree will bloom again in the spring. Life will come again. So I wanted those leaves to be a little bit more ghosty, and just as quilting, they didn't stand out quite as much. And the Roman numerals, which represent all of the time that's on the clock, that also didn't come out the way I wanted it to in quilting. So I used the DeWalt Inktense pencils, and I went in and I colored every single leaf and every single Roman numeral, either with white, which is mostly at the top, or a light purple, which is down towards the bottom in the sky, bringing a little bit more emphasis to those two elements. When it came to the binding of this quilt, I had already decided that I wanted to use some lettering, a poem, for example, and the cliche might be for me to use Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. However, the theme of that poem is really not the theme of this quilt. So let's talk about the theme of the quilt and then how the poem came to be. The theme of this quilt, of course, is time, and that's why we see the hands of the clock on the moon on the quilt. Well, now we come to a little bit about me. My life word is time. I have less time in front of me than I have behind me. So how I spend this precious gift is one of the most important things that I think about constantly. I want to use my time wisely. My life motto is Carpe Diem. Today, the opportunity is now. The time is now. We don't have a promise for tomorrow. And with the raven being creative, part of the creation story, my life adjective, the one adjective that I feel describes me as an artist and a person, is creative. Everything that I want to do in my life is create. I love creating, whether it's photography or quilting or music or telling stories. I love being involved with creativity. So therein lies part of the connections that I have to the raven. The raven is this kind of foretelling that time is running out, impending doom, and use your time wisely. So when it came to the poem, I wanted to write my own poem. So I sat down, put some words together. I knew also that I wanted to put that poem on the binding. I had decided that a wider binding with the poem going across the top and around, the entire perimeter of the quilt, that poem would be then stitched into the binding. I didn't want the poem to go through the binding, so I wrote the poem and then I printed the poem in reverse on staple stuff poly. I then put that on the back of my binding with the, backwards up, and using a number 8 pearl cotton that's kind of burgundy, that was in the bobbin, and it took me 2 days just to stitch free motion, very slowly, all of that poem. I had to pull every tail up to the top side, which would be the back side, tie the knots, and even if it was an I, just to dot the I or to cross the T, all of that detail took quite a bit of time just to put the lettering on the binding. Then once the binding was on the quilt, as you see, the poem is now going around the perimeter of that. I also included it on the label on the back of the quilt. So here's the poem. When raven comes so silently, a feathered ghost on moonlit tree, no call, no cry, just mystic grace, with hands of time in his embrace. He brings a gift both worn and wise, revealing truth behind the lies. The gift foretells what none can stall, that time will end for one and all. The barren tree in winter's chill has living roots and pulses still. Spring will return, new days will dawn, buds will appear, time presses on. When raven takes his final flight and disappears in failing night, don't hesitate, don't drift, don't wait. The time is now, the hour is late. There you have it, everybody. So the visitation finished this summer. Been waiting a while to tell you. So you have me as a captive audience for you right now. If you have any extra questions, I will be watching for a few minutes here to see if you've got any questions or comments that you would like to add about the quilt. It's 80, well, probably 70 by 79 by 79 after it's been quilted, but it was designed at 80 by 80. It's been really fun to work on. So I see some amazings and thank yous and wows, but thank you for that. It means a lot. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? Beautiful poem, beautiful quilt. Love the binding idea. So yeah, the binding, so you don't see that in the photo so well because I didn't want it to overpower, but it is definitely there. Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you. Just going to give you a chance to pop in any questions if you care to. So who's going to Houston? Let's talk about that because the quilt will be there at Houston. Thank you, Della. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think it's in the pictorial category at Houston. I think that's what it's in. I don't think there was another option for it this year. So did I remove the white paper? The white paper is Ricky Tim's Stable Stuff Poly, and it does not have to be removed because it softens in water. So no, I used it as a stabilizer. Sally says, when will we take the class? I think you've already taken the class, Sally. But by the way, I will be teaching in Houston, you guys. So if you're there, sign up for my class. I would love that. Thank you so much, Kat. Talking about the binding. Yeah, I dyed the fabrics, yes. Yay, Teresa. Oh, you'll be at, well, you'll see the quilt at market. I won't be at market. I'm only there for festival, but you'll see the quilt there. Not in the cards this year. Do I use a stitch regulator? I did not use a stitch regulator on the domestic. I think it needs to go to Festival of Quilts too, Mandela. I'm hoping that I might could get an invitation to come over because then I could carry it myself instead of having to do the shipping because that's what really takes the cake on internationals. But yes, I would love to send it. Judith, it's good to see you. So I will, the quilt's going to go around for a while for sure. I'm just finally glad to share it with you guys. It's been hard to keep it a secret because I love people like, well, Ricky, are you not making quilts anymore? I am. I'm working on this one and I just didn't want to show it. Carla says I wasn't going, but I have to conflict, but now I'm going to see if I can get there for a day or two. I'm in with driving distance. I hope you can, Carla. It would be great to see you. You're welcome, Karen. Thank you so much. The poem is written on the front of the quilt on the perimeter. So when you see the quilt, each couplet is on one side of the quilt. I used mostly to quilt it. I used mostly Superior threads. I used Fantastico and Magnifico. And I use a Wonderfill number 8. I might have one here handy. I'm not sure. Oh, no, I don't think I have one handy. But I used Wonderfill number 8 pearl cotton that are beautifully dyed to do the poem. And that was in the bottom, in the bobbin. So I was working upside down and I was doing cursive lettering with upside down mirror. But fortunately it was printed so I could follow the line. I will at some point, of course, enter it into Paducah. And not to be presumptive, but you guys, quilts have to get accepted, right? So I will enter them in those shows. Don't know what the order of things will be as it moves on the show circuit. I just know that the first time it will be seen publicly is in Houston this fall. Well, actually October, a little bit less than a month, or right at a month right now. Joanne, thank you for saying who wishes it with the RMQM, and I wanted it to be there for a heartbeat, but the dates for Houston this year required that it leave and go be in Houston for judging. So I don't know when judging announcements are going to be. I'm sure that the International Quilt Festival, the Quilts Inc. will announce that very soon. I think it will be in the next, 10 days, 2 weeks or something like that. I'm hoping anyway. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Helene. Thank you. Thank you, Mandela. I would love to be there. I would love to see you and Debbie and all my British friends. I miss you guys. Thanks for giving us a preview. Oh, I did. I gave you a little preview. Some of you that were with me live, I say put your cameras down and here's what I'm working on. And then you just had to keep it in your memory. For me, it wasn't until I got the binding on it that I felt satisfied. Do not yet know, Mary, when they will announce, but they will announce. I'm sure they'll send out emails to all of us very soon. Ruth Ellen, thank you so much. So at some point, I will probably do something about this binding. It was brand new for me. The way I did the binding, brand new because it's extra wide. I didn't want to put a border on the quilt, I didn't want to face the quilt. This kind of frame just felt right, and that frame is what I decided I could use for the poem. So all of those will probably become classes. You guys, it's probably worth telling you, I do have a November locomotion class starting up in November, and that is for registration right now at letsquilttogether.com. I do not have that to put on the screen. No apostrophe, but letsquilttogether.com. I do have a November class with maybe 20 or 25 students left open, and I will probably do that class again in early January. So if you're interested, but I've also got some other classes. My primitive patchwork class is coming up. I would love for you to take that. I want to shout out to Hugo, my other half. Hugo, his very, 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 very first quilt is my primitive patchwork class. It is quirky, it is fun, it is freeing, it is not precise, it is great for a first-time quilter. And not only did Hugo make that quilt, but it is also at Houston. So you want to look up Hugo's quilt in the pieced category. The name of the quilt is Amelia, and it is beautiful. I don't have a photo to show you, but it is absolutely stunning. Let's see what else. Beverly, you'll be able to catch up, Beverly. It's all recorded and will be on Facebook. And this video is also a standalone video on YouTube. If you just search Ricky Timms, The Visitation, you will find the documentary that I just shared with you. The poem, you can just copy it from this video if you want to copy. I don't have it written anywhere that I know of. I might have put it in the description of YouTube not on this live, but on the actual video. I just don't remember. I could go do that. Do you see the details of the quilt on the back with the thread quilting? I suppose, yes, you see everything on the back, all the outlines of the clock and the moon and the tree. Well, the tree, because it's different quilting. But yes, and the back fabric is sun-dyed. I purchased it, but it's a beautiful a hand-dyed individual one-of-a-kind piece on the back. So Rhonda's asking, how do I turn it to vector? That is an Adobe Illustrator thing. So Photoshop deals with pixels and Illustrator deals with the lines. So I brought that final picture that I assembled in layers over into Adobe Photoshop, and then I did the lines with the pen tool. You can do that in different programs, but I'm an Adobe guy, so I use Illustrator. I'm inspired to get back to quilting. I have a great deal of your fabric. I'm excited to get my mojo. But Kathy, take a class with me. Let's do that together, okay? I would love that. So thank you. Reshow. So Leanne, for those of you that missed it, I'm not going to show it again on this live, but if you go to YouTube and I see that you're on YouTube, just do a search for The Visitation, Ricky Timms, and that whole documentary will be there. It's 19 minutes long. And we will make a puzzle. I will make a puzzle of The Visitation. Linda, thank you. I recommend you Superior Threads. No. I did that for King Tut, and they made a nice documentary featuring him. Okay, cool. That's wonderful. Carol, I'll be at Paducah next year. I will be there. And Carol, I hope you do get a show at Quilt in the Show. That's great. So Australia, Maryland, be sure to say hi. You please be sure to say hi. Even though we just had this 3 seconds of a visit, you come say hi to me when you get to get to Houston. I will be there. So I used the same in the bobbin that I used in the top on this particular quilt. Sometimes I will use bottom line, but in this case I used the same top and bottom. I appreciate you sharing the quilt today. I don't understand why you would choose to stitch the poem from the back side. Oh, Betty, let me explain. Because the thread that I'm using is a number 8 pearl cotton, and it will not go through the top needle and function for me. I needed it to be right, but also I needed a pattern. And if I had put something on that, I would have had to tear it away after I did it because it's on the top. I was using, I created that poem with a handwritten script font for cursive. And so when I put that on the back in reverse, it had to be in reverse. I worked backwards and upside down. So I didn't have to remove my stable stuff. It just stayed in the quilt. It softens once the quilt is wet. And then I have what I need on the front. Going backwards did not slow me down. I just had to go backwards in the way that I wrote the words. The slowness was the pulling the thread tails up, tying all the knots, doing just one eye with 3 little stitches and pulling the tails to the top and tying off everything. And I wanted to go extremely slow because I wanted it to be beautiful stitches and accurate. So the finished binding, I'm not sure. It's slightly less than 2 inches, maybe 1 3/4 inches, maybe 2 inches, right in that realm. Margaret Bow, how much do I love you and miss you? And happy birthday recently. You're welcome. You give a hug to all our friends in Edinburgh, Scotland, okay? I need you to do that for me because I love you guys. I miss you. Bring me back. I want to come see you. I'm signed up. Can't wait. Thank you. That's okay. You missed the preview, but Edie, you'll see it. You can find it. Thank you, Debbie. What class of yours online do I need to take to turn a photo into that vector line drawing? I don't really have one of those yet, Rhonda. I'm sorry, but I would suggest if you've not taken locomotion, because that's the process, that's the technique that I used. Maybe someday I'll be able to do something like that to teach a little bit about Photoshop and vector drawings and so forth. And you can have them printed at a print shop. You don't have to have your own big printer. So you guys, letsquilttogether.com is my teaching site, and there is a place on those pages, on that page, to contact me. So if you have a question, you can do that. Margaret, I'm so glad you're in Papa's Choice class coming up. Hugo has put the link on there for us, you guys, if you can see that. Thank you very much, Joanne. I'm sticking with you guys because, like I said, this is if you're bored, you can go away, but I just want to be sure that while you've got me, this is a good time to answer questions. I don't have any photos of the back of the quilt, Carol. Maybe someday. Just wasn't something I could get done before I shipped it off. I haven't seen it. I finished the quilt and sent it off. The final binding with all the embroidery and all of that. Once I finally got that done, it was time to send the quilt away. So, yep, another puzzles. Helen from Idaho. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so the Inktense pencils are permanent once they are heat set. So they are very permanent. I've used them on labels. So you want to follow the instructions and so forth. But really, I used a bit of steam on that to set them, and they will not wash out. So the best way to do that is to make a little label and use those pencils and do the heat setting and steam, and then just wash the label and see how it behaves for you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Sirku. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I know that's just not the most common name for my part of the world, but I'm glad you're here. David, it's good to see you. Yes, sirree. Oh, good for you, David. I'm glad to hear that you found a positive way forward with your fabric. Yes, so this quilt, when I finished it, it went into the washing machine. It didn't need to wash. I just wanted to get rid of all the water-soluble thread. I wanted to soften all the stabilizers, and it is my way to block the quilt. So it is then spun. It's spun. It comes out of the washing machine. It does not go to the dryer. It goes to a carpeted floor. A big rug is what I had. And then I tug and pull and stretch and pull and get it all nice and square. I use T-pins all the way around it to make sure it's nice and snug and all of that. And then I square it. I haven't squared it up to that point because that's when I know it needs to be perfectly square and put the binding on it. So that's what I do to finish my quilts, and that gets rid of any of the water-soluble threads that I used for basting or anything else that I might have done. Joel, be sure, or Joel, whichever, be sure to upload that into our class, okay? There's still the final showcase, and email me and tell me you did so I can go see it. You're welcome, you're welcome. Stormy, it's good to see you. My goodness, you guys. Some of you guys are my old friends, and I love you dearly. Lisa, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh. So many of you guys. Thank you so much. DeWalt ink tints. Look at that. They're setting right here. They look like this. Okay. DeWalt ink tints pencils. They're not cheap, I must say. The more you buy, you can get a set of 128 or something. It'll cost you, but it's worth it. Yeah. Good afternoon. Thank you, Rose. Well, so when I'm wetting the quilt for blocking, do I worry about the dye leaking? Only maybe 5%, and that's because my dyed fabrics have been dyed, they've been washed again in hot water. So the fact that I've washed my fabrics till, I just do my hand-dyed fabrics forever, and so Synthropol is the way to go to do that. I've used hand-dyed fabrics since 98. I started using them primarily since 98. And in the event that I was to have something bleed on a quilt like this, it would be so hard because the colors are all whatever. But if I had a red next to a white, that could be a problem. But then I would use Synthropol to fix that problem. But Elizabeth, I don't worry about it because it's my fabrics. I washed them. I rinsed them again. Now they're in the quilt, and I'm just not concerned that they're going to bleed any further than that. Have some drawings on paper in mind. Hit the ball out of the park. Thank you so much, Rhonda. The quilt is 80 by 80. It's shrunk down to probably 79 by 79. Hey, Penny, it's good to see you. Priscilla, oh my gosh. Priscilla, you gotta go because Hugo will just be brokenhearted if you don't. Who's he gonna poke? Gigi, oh my God, Gigi. Gigi, I miss you and I hope you're doing okay. So you need to send me an email and tell me what's going on because I miss you in my world. Good afternoon, you guys. Thank you so much. Sheila, oh my God. All you guys, thank you, Sheila. It's good to see you. Keep quilting. Laura, Drata came in late. That's okay. Just rewind, Laura. It'll start at the beginning as soon as I'm done here, okay? And if you just want to watch that documentary, it's 19 minutes long and it's on YouTube, and you just search The Visitation, Ricky Timms, and you'll find it. Remember, my last name is 4 letters, Tims. I am a 4-letter word. There you go. All right, so I'm going to say hasta la vista, farewell, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen, cheers, ciao, all those wonderful things. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want to share the link, if you go to YouTube and find The Visitation, Ricky Timms, there's a share button. You can copy that link, send it to your friends. I would love for you to do that. I don't even mind if you post it on your social media as a link for other people to see. Let's spread the word. I'd love to see it. So, Carol, as many shows as I possibly can over the next 2 years. As many shows as I can. So we will see it, I'm sure. All right, Joanne, you did miss the quilt, but that's okay. Rewind this as soon as I'm going away. Just start it back at the beginning and you'll see it. Thank you, guys. Kat, I love you so much. You know that and wish you were here too. Marion Mapes, it's so good to see you. Thank you. You guys are awesome. You're all awesome. I love you much. Thank you so much, and I'm going to say goodbye. Till next time.